and Lederman and all these types of guys having these big catch can matches against the terrible Turks. And, and there's a great book, 1921. People can look it up and say, hey, 1921 was it's called Tigrero. If you can find the book, it was written about the diamond rush in 1921 in Brazil, and two Russian brothers, Ernst and Sasha Semmel. John Wayne was going to make a movie about these guys. And Ernst and Sasha Semmel went to Brazil and worked their way through the Mato Grosso, stopping at different ranches and in towns because they were engineers and could fix everybody's guns. But Ernst and Sasha would do catch can matches against like Paraguayan strongmen. And so this stuff was going on all over the world. And we're bringing it back. That's what this is all about. At the Skydancer Casino in North Dakota, this is a historic match. Certainly back in those days, the late 1800s, early 1900s, I'm sure there were catch can matches going on, but this is the first time in over probably 100 years that a catch match has taken place in North Dakota. This is big.
That's awesome. This is a shoot, right? Just for people that might be confused, if it's pro wrestling as part of the MMA show, or is this catch?
No, this is real. This is real catch.
Neither of these competitors probably even know what a work is. These are 100% shooters. Brandon's coming right off the mat, as well as Matua coming right out of the cage. Excuse me, and I got to say, what Pat's uncle did is called a barnstormer, and there's such a rich history behind this. I wrote a book with Eric Paulson, Rough and Tumble, where we traced that history and studied that history. And for jiu-jitsu fans, Count Koma Mitsuya Maeda, who trained the Gracies, was a traveling catch-as-catch-can competitor, and the Gracie family actually ran the carnivals and fairs in Brazil. So that's how the Gracie family was actually trained, and they adapted that more to their body style. So we should probably explain to fans, because that's such a great question, Hannibal, because people think when they hear the term pro wrestling, they wonder, is it going to be a work? No, it's 100% shoot, and it's held under pin and submission rules, and it's going to be a best of 3 falls. So for Brandon, coming primarily off the wrestling mat, he's going to have to alter his strategy for this type of a competition. And Matua as well, coming primarily from the cage, is going to have to adapt his strategy. And this rule set is so exciting because you have a pin, it forces the action. So we are really excited about this event.
Yeah, the jiu-jitsu guys can't just lay on their back and look for submissions. They are going to go into panic mode, because they're going to lose otherwise. So they've got to be able to survive that wrestler putting them on their back, passing their guard, and getting them in trouble. They've got to be able to survive that stuff. So it definitely makes it a lot more exciting than people just laying on their back looking for submissions.
Yeah, and
is it a 3 count or a 1 count?
I believe it's a folk style pin. Okay. I would need to confirm that with Jake, because it's a great question too. Because in the catch matches, and there have been for the last 25 years, catch matches on some grappling, jiu-jitsu tournaments, and they always vary the rules. Sometimes it is the 1, 2, 3, the pro wrestling count, and sometimes it's a folk style pin. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to be held with a folk style pin or a submission. And the fact that it's in a cage too is going to be really interesting as well, because Jake Shannon's run 3 shows for Shoot Pro Wrestling with some fantastic grapplers over the last few years, and they've all been held in a ring. And I spoke with our commissioner of Shoot Pro Wrestling, Jerry Briscoe, who you know well, Hannibal, and he felt that the cage is better, and he loves the idea that we're doing this on the MMA show in North Dakota at the Skydancer, and he's going to try to make it up there as well.
What do you guys think, just on a quick topic on the Olympics, that there was no gold medals in the U.S. for males this year, and the WWE had Gable Stevenson, who probably would have won gold at heavyweight, under contract, but they released him just weeks after the Olympic trials were over. So he couldn't do the Olympic trials under them. And it seems like they purposely released him after the Olympic trials so he couldn't then go and win after he was a free agent.
He went into football, didn't he?
He's now with the Bills, I believe.
Well, yeah, either way, I'm sure he's making a lot of money. It's unfortunate he couldn't go win his Olympic gold because, yeah, you're correct, Hannibal. He very likely would have won a gold, and it's unfortunate the Americans didn't pull off a gold on the men's side. I believe the women won too, though, didn't they?
Yes, yeah, the women definitely won too.
Yeah. So, but I mean, look at the UFC now. It's being dominated by Eastern Europeans, the Chechens, Kazakhstanis, Russians, stuff like that. I'll be honest with you. I mean, some people think this is controversial, but anybody that understands the food in America understands, and the soil in America, the water in America, it's so chemically poisoned at this point and so nutrient deficient that our health, our power, our masculinity, everything is being deteriorated at a rate that's quite drastic, actually. Things have changed a lot since, the 70s and 80s. I'm old enough to remember what people looked like back in the 70s and 80s, and everybody had a six-pack, so over in Eastern Europe, they don't use these types of agriculture practices of growing food with chemicals. There's still a lot of nutrients left in the soil, and that makes for a better human being. That's just the way it is. And they, of course, have probably a little tougher lifestyle, certainly, and have had to do a lot more, just rougher lives in general. But it really, in my mind, comes down to a better human being, and better human beings as far as powerful, explosive, testosterone full, monsters are coming out of a different part of the world right now.
Yeah, and another thing that's always hindered American wrestlers on the international stage, and this, Hannibal, yourself as a national freestyle champion in Canada, is that we come up with folk style wrestling, and the rules of freestyle have changed over the years to the point where it's more of a game of position. There's not a lot of mat wrestling. So that's another big factor. We may have freestyle clubs like we had back in Connecticut, like in the spring, but the focus and emphasis is on folk style as well. But
yeah, good point.
Yeah, so it's interesting though, because for you, Hannibal, you have a great background that would be suitable for shoot pro wrestling. Yourself as a national grappling champion in Canada, a national freestyle champion, and folks know you from the professional wrestling squared circle. Do you think, Hannibal, that you would ever want to compete as we build and grow this company with shoot pro wrestling?
Anything's possible. I'm coming off of a bad ankle injury right now, but anything is possible. Is Mr. Miletich going to compete at all, or are you through with
Hannibal? I mean, what are you weighing right now, Hannibal?
265.
Well, I'm not wrestling you.
That wouldn't even be a challenge for you at all. But yeah,
I just hope I can outrun you.
Yeah. What happened in your last? I think your last fight was for yourself. You were doing great. You were destroying. I believe it was Mike Jackson, but you had some sort of heart issue where it just.
No, the main thing was I just found out too about a month ago, but I cut 18 pounds the day before the fight at 57 years old, which is completely moronic. But I really couldn't train for it because I just couldn't understand what was going on with me. Well, what I had was for at least, 6 to 8 months, I would spend a lot of time helping take care of a family member who was suffering from some pretty severe illness, and her house was literally full of black mold in the basement, and I got reinfected with more black mold. It was the same situation I had when I was a kid, and I had forgotten that I had used silver, colloidal silver and colloidal copper to heal my respiratory system when I was 19 or 20 years old, which changed the trajectory of my life. And a couple friends of mine, Dr. Will Spencer and Steve Moore, did some scans on me, and they said the two nutrients that you are completely deficient in right now is copper and silver. And so when you're nutrient deficient like that, when you add them back in, suddenly your immune system kicks on. And sorry to make this a long story, but it's important. They said, we've got to put silver and copper back in you to turn your immune function back on. And I did big doses of copper and silver and had a massive, they call a healing crisis, that went after the infection in my blood, my jaw, my bronchial tubes, and everything. So I just, while I had the black mold and bacterial infection in my body, I cut 18 pounds the day before the fight, and so I went hypoxic literally right away in that fight. So I was struggling quite a bit. Beat him up for 10 minutes, but you just can only do so much.
Yeah, Pat dominated that fight, and if you want to watch here on Hannibal TV, I did a pre-show for that fight with my dear friend Prince of Persia, Kamal Shalarus, and I believe we also had the MMA professor Colin Crandall joining us, and Pat just completely dominated that fight from beginning to end. But the difference here in the Shoot Pro competition, and this is something we really should mention, is I'd have to confer with Jake, but I don't believe we're looking at rounds or time limits here. I think this is just a best 2 out of 3. And that's going to be very interesting because it's going to test the cardio of these young guys.
Yeah, and is it only happening in North Dakota because of the commission allowing it there, or is this?
No, that's the beauty of Shoot Pro. There are no commission issues at all because it's a grappling competition. So when it's grappling, you don't have to get the commission involved at all. We were looking at doing this up there with you and Jack with the Great North Wrestling, and we're still open to that. But we're doing it more just because Pat is our president with Shoot Pro Wrestling, and he's provided us with this awesome opportunity to bring Shoot Pro to the Sky Dancer Casino and to these MMA shows, and hopefully this will be one of many for Shoot Pro Wrestling.
What brought you into this idea, Pat? Because I know you've been friends with Jake for a while, but what's made you so passionate about it and wanting to actually add it to your card in North Dakota?
Well, I think, Jake and Matt both have always been very passionate about it. And, for me, it's a part of my history. It was just something that I've always been enamored with. Historically, looking back at, all the old books that I have. I mean, I have instructional books on catch wrestling, with tons of submissions in there that, for instance, like if you can find Earl Lederman books and stuff like that, the submissions in there are some of them incredibly complex, but you've got people that are modern day grapplers who are like thinking that they are inventing these moves and naming them after themselves. And, the human body hasn't changed for thousands of years. These techniques have been used, of course, throughout time and rediscovered, so to speak, as people start, learning and doing things. It's just important to me to keep the history alive. The history of combat, all combat, to me is important, and fitness, of course, but just the history of catch is catch, can wrestling, and all of it is just, it's super important to me. So it's reviving it and bringing it back is I think something that we owe it.
Are you training people right now still yourself?
I've done some seminars, of late, but I don't train professional athletes. I quit coaching professional athlete several years ago. Will I look at videos of fighters who send me videos and ask me for pointers or help coaches fix, footwork problems or, whatever might be going on with their athlete? I still do a little bit of that, but for the most part, I reached all my goals, Hannibal, as an athlete and as a coach. And, my focus now is soil to human health and helping people understand that our illness as a nation comes from our soil, and that if we are to revive the power of the human being in America, we have to do it by fixing the soil and our food first. And so I educate people on how to get toxins out of the body, heavy metal synthetics, and how to revive cellular function and all those sort of things with high grade nutrients, and then educate them on the soil as well. And it's it's just an awareness campaign, and a lot of people are waking up.
And on that note, Hannibal, folks should check out here on the channel the featured interview I did with Pat's dear friend Jim Gale, national wrestling champion, who has the Food Forest Abundance facility, beautiful facility on the lake here in Florida. Jim Gale, Gale.
Yeah, Galt's. That's Galt's Landing. People can Google. Yeah, people can Google Galt's Landing. It's a 55-acre food forest, and Jim and myself and 8 other people are on what's called the Earth Council of 12. It's 12 total people. Sorry. And so our goal is to improve mankind, improve the environment, all those types of things. I mean, there are regenerative agriculture experts, there's trauma experts, there's, a lot of people of different walks of life and experts who are, working together to do some cool things. And Jim's Food Forest Abundance teaches people how to grow a food forest in your own yard instead of having a lawn, which is, unique in America for the most part, where you grow grass and put down petroleum-based fertilizers and weed killer all over your yard. Everywhere else around the world, everybody's growing food. They've got orchards in their yards. They've got gardens in their yards, and they walk outside and they fill up a bowl of food and walk in the house and have dinner. That's the way it should be. And victory gardens during World War II were what helped Americans get through very tough times. And so we've been just kind of educating people on how to grow nutrient-dense food and not use chemicals and change your life.
Well, someone like me that lives in a townhouse without a yard, am I screwed, or what would be a suggestion to help?
There's great hydroponic gardens that you can get, Hannibal. You can grow massive gardens indoors. You can have an entire wall of your condo could be a beautiful, collection of tomatoes and cucumbers and, every kind of garden plant. And, that's something that's very important, and it can be very nutrient dense. And you go out and you buy some grass-fed meat, or some real free-range chicken, if you can connect with farmers in your area and get really good, solid, chemical-free food. I mean, you're squared away, brother.
Sounds good. And as far as this upcoming election, I know you're a very political person.
I'm not political. I'm not political at all. You know how far my politics goes? I'll tell you. I'll tell you. If you're the only person in the country that doesn't want to do what the other 340 million people want to do, leave him alone. That's my politics.
Interesting. So you don't have a favorite for this upcoming election?
No, I mean, it's to me, people, we've got to deal with reality. My reality is, 70% of Americans are on pharmaceutical drugs. Those are chemicals, and they are synthesized, to me, very toxic substances that mask the symptoms of, instead of addressing the cause. If we were to heal the soil in America, we would heal the water, we would heal the air, and we would heal the population. And so, it's just unfortunate that the system of agriculture, the system of healthcare are built around chemical companies And at some point, everybody's got to wake up, because when you've got 70% of Americans that are that sick, their thought processes aren't going to be, squared away. Their reality, their perspectives, are going to be changed drastically, and they're easily influenced then with the constant fear programming that's used. The fear and trauma is what they use to run our countries, and that's unacceptable. So anybody that's put in a position of power to be on a ballot at a national level, there's no denying. People can say what they want. Well, Trump's being attacked by this group, that group, every other group. Ultimately, there's a lot of Hollywood going on, in my personal opinion. I originally did vote for Trump when he first ran, but when you allow lockdowns, you don't do your background on what's really going on in the country. 50 years of bioweapons laboratories. What are bioweapons laboratories even used for? The vast majority of Americans have no idea why they exist. Well, we have to ask ourselves again. We've left it up to the so-called experts to grow our food and treat our health issues, and it's led to shorter lifespans and more illness in this country than we've ever seen. There's no political solutions, Hannibal. We are the only ones that can save ourselves, and that's what it comes down to. Is you better start growing your own food. You better learn how to do it, and you better take care of yourself and your family, because nobody else is going to.
And it's similar up here in Canada as far as
the exact same model, brother. The exact same model.
Now, as far as someone that might be listening to this that might want to get into Shoot Pro, first of all, how would they contact you guys about it? Second of all, the Miletich Fighting Systems is historically one of the most successful at producing top fighters in the history of the UFC. How would you advise people to train for Catch as Catch Can? Because it's not like there's a school for this or at the corner of every mini mall.
Well, I think it comes down to, people can contact me at my email, organicsupersoldier@gmail.com. But if they're going to get into, and this is going to grow, we know this is going to grow because, wrestling is king, number one. And so the combination of the wrestling background, the jiu-jitsu, the sambo, the catch as catch can, stuff that I studied, of course, throughout my career, I think are all very important components to it. But definitely the wrestling base is massively important. So, and that as well, Hannibal.
Yeah, I think folks should go check out Jake's site. Our site, shootprowrestling.com. A lot of cool stuff on there. Like I said, Jake's already done 3 events that were his own single standing events. But I'm really excited about what we're doing here now with Shoot Pro. It's exciting. This is an exciting time for the company, for the brand. Our partnership with Skydancer, North Dakota, and we got 2 studs that are going at it on August 31st. And one of the things I was tasked to do by Jake Shannon is to help get distribution. And I have a gentleman, Dave Iacovetti, that produces a show in South Florida on the CW network that I host with a former guest on your show, on your channel here, Hannibal, Larry Matza. He has another affiliate station for CW in Las Vegas. And we're looking to get this on TV, get it out there, get some sponsors, because when you see this rule set, it is exciting. It forces the action. And to your point, Hannibal, your question about training for this, the best way to train for it is to get out there and do it. If you're competing in a certain rule set, get out there and train in that rule set in the gym with the pins and submissions together. It really forces the action, and ultimately the winners are going to be the fans on August 31st.
Sounds great. There's just a quick question on here for Mr. Miletich. Did you train Big Ben Rothwell?
Yeah, I trained Big Ben for quite a few years. He came down and spent a lot of time with me, and had a lot of fun with Ben. Ben's quite a character and was a great fighter, a great fighter.
Do you have a favorite of all the legends that you've trained over the years, or is that too hard to narrow down?
I mean, it's too hard to narrow down. You know, personalities are personalities, right? I mean, I've had a lot of fun and a lot of great memories with, what do we put, 95 athletes into pay-per-view televised careers, 12 world champs, 2 team world championships in the IFL. So there's been a lot of great personalities, a lot of great athletes, great fighters, and great human beings overall. So, I mean, all very, very unique spots in my heart with all of them.
Last question I got to ask you, Pat, about this whole Chung Lee lawsuit where the judge didn't accept the settlement with the fighters and the UFC, and now it is going to go back to court if they can't settle it. What are your thoughts on that situation?
I was brought in very early on, many years ago, where they were trying to go potentially unionize the sport of mixed martial arts and all that sort of stuff. I wasn't real big on that. Had some interesting meetings with some union leaders, and it was going to be a very, very difficult task to accomplish, number one. And two, I also realized unionizing the athletes would make it unaffordable for most of the promoters except the biggest ones, which would, damage the sport overall, in my particular opinion. But more than anything else, the lawsuit, I mean, I was competing in the days when, we did not have protections. We could not protect, I had at one time had a trademark attorney trademark my name, my likeness, all that sort of stuff. And so, even still to this day, because I think ultimately, I've had some disagreements over the years with Dana White and the folks over there, that, my name is in the Hall of Fame, but my picture is not on the website. It's a gray figure, whatever. I don't dislike any of them. I don't have a problem with any of them. The only thing that I wish for is, overall, more competition is better for the athletes to be able to choose from. And that's really what I believe in is a fair playing field. And the UFC has done a great job in building into a monstrosity, and they've done a great deal of good for the sport. There just needs to be more people that have it run a little tighter ship and maybe a little better game to create some sort of competitiveness for the athletes to kind of shop their talents around, I guess, is the best way to put it.
And Hannibal, something that I want to point out on that note is one of the great things about Shoot Pro is we've all known folks who suffer from the CTE and TBI. And the great thing about Shoot Pro is it's an avenue as we build this and grow for wrestlers to come from the mat into a profession, into a sport. They can compete in it and make money where they don't have those risks to their brains for CTE and TBI. And that's one of the things that really drew me to this with Jake, because at the time when Jake approached me about becoming part of the company, I had just lost a dear friend, Stephan Bonner, and had another friend in a Mexican prison. So I think this is going to afford folks, and we are going to build this and we're going to grow this, because I think once the fans start to see this and we get some sponsors behind us and we get some TV, this is a fan-friendly, exciting rule set, and it's going to afford wrestlers the opportunity to go on to a career in combat sports where they don't have those risks.
Great point, man.
There's no question Stephan Bonner had some of those issues. As far as the friend in the Mexican prison, I don't know if you can update us, but we haven't heard anything about that for years. Is he doing all right?
Yeah, there's really no update. I did that documentary with Bravo TV where he took a hour-long conversation with me, and my segment was only like 15 minutes long. But what I said in that exchange was, when I got Phil with Garcia, and got him the pro bono representation. He was moved to a side of the prison that's the halfway house side, which is it's almost like a frat party on that side. And fortunately, as long as they still pony up, his family still ponies up, he'll be on that side. But it's a totally different world, and he could be there for another 10, 20 years. There's no right to a speedy trial in Mexico. The cartels run everything. It's a very, very corrupt situation down there.
Very sad. Mr. Miletich, is there anything you want to let the fans know about this big card before we sign off here?
No, just that, hey, anybody in the North Dakota, South Dakota area, hey, Skydancer Casino, August 31st. Get your tickets. Come on up. We are going to have a blast. There's also some other folks. I know we've got a few celebrities that are going to be showing up that people are going to not want to miss. And those are kind of secret guests that I'm not supposed to talk about right now. But anyway, going to be a great card, great show. And we'd love to have media come and cover it. And so, yeah, we're ready. We're going to rock and roll, buddy.
I got to ask you, just speaking of celebrities, you were such a big star in the UFC. Who would have been your best celebrity experience and who would have been your worst? I know you've met tons of massive stars over the years.
It's kind of funny. I'll tell you a funny story. I've met, one of my favorite, Roddy Piper was sitting at a table with Matt Lindland and the Team Quest guys. And I walked in, it was in a restaurant, and Roddy was always my favorite. And so I stopped at the table and I looked across the table and there was Roddy Piper sitting there. And I was so excited. I was like a little kid. I was like, oh my God, it's, are you kidding me? Roddy Piper sitting right here. I go, I walked around the table and gave him a hug and I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. And Lindland came up to me the next day and he goes, dude, you made Piper's freaking night. And he goes, the champ knows who I am. The champ knows who I am. And I was so excited. And I'm still heartbroken that he passed away. But absolutely love that guy. Love that guy.
Yeah, he was a disciple of.
I heard you on the Steve Austin's podcast, and you could tell he was a fan of yours.
Oh my God, he's amazing. And yeah, but I've had some pretty funny Jason Statham, because I was a big fan of the term. What was it? The Transporter was one of his first big movies, and I met him and walked up to him, and guys that are big stars like that aren't necessarily used to people just grabbing them and like, oh, come here, I got it's awesome to meet you, and kind of freaked him out, I think, a little bit. So Jason Statham, I traumatized him, I think, when I grabbed him. But no, there's been a ton of guys, Mickey Rourke, and a bunch of other people that I've met over the years. John Travolta came to my locker room door. I was defending my title. John Travolta's limousine pulled into the arena underneath the belly of the arena, and he got out, and they brought him for whatever reason. I have no idea, but the Las Vegas Athletic Commission guys told me. They came in and said, you're not going to believe who was here. John Travolta in his limo came here, and he wanted to come in here and meet you. And we told him he did not have credentials to come in. So he was pissed off and he left. I'm fine with not meeting John Travolta, but that's a pretty funny story that he got mad and left because he couldn't come in.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
so,
a life that you've led.
Roddy though, man. Roddy's what a legend.
Yeah, there's some more proof of all the ring wear and tear over the years. I'm sure didn't help to his early death.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I was going to mention, Roddy was a disciple of Gene LaBelle. Yeah, he was one of Gene's black belts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you guys the best of luck, and it's always great hearing Mr. Miletich's stories. So be there in a couple weeks, and I'll definitely report on the results right here on the Hannibal TV. But if you're in North Dakota, is there a website that they can check out or anything?
I'd say check out shootprowrestling.com. And as far as distribution,
I'm gonna be doing the commentary with Pat and Jake, I believe, too, and we're gonna be getting it out there to a number of places like Fight TV, and I'm working on getting it run as a television special in South Florida and Las Vegas, as well as maybe the Hannibal TV. You know, you always run a lot of our awesome stuff, Hannibal. I just need to talk to Jake because, again, this is Jake Shannon's company. And you talk about a guy with a long and storied history. I've known Jake now for 20 years, and he's been doing those scientific wrestling camps now for so long, and such effective camps, and trained a lot of guys. And this is just the next iteration, and we're really excited about Shoot Pro Wrestling.
Yep, and people can go to the Facebook page, Define the Fight MMA. Define the Fight MMA. That's Mariah Prusha's Facebook page for the promotion, so they can check that out as well.